forum for the candidates for the contested races of the Batavia Park District and the Batavia School Board. My name is Patty Lackman, and I am the Voter Service Chair for the League of Women Voters of Central Kane County. I indicated that the forum tonight is for those in contested races. The candidates running for Batavia Library Board and Batavia City Council are not in contested races. There are 7 people running for 7 slots in City Council and 3 people running for 3 slots for the Batavia Library Board. They're gonna win, you think? Yeah. It's noted that the League of Women Voters has an empty chair policy, which prohibits a candidate from participating in our forum if their opponent is not present. In Batavia, y'all showed up, so this is awesome. I will tell you that the other 3 races that we're doing, we're not quite so lucky. Today's forum is being live streamed and filmed by Audrey over here. Wave, Audrey, from BATV, and the tape will be posted on the websites of the League of Women Voters of Central Kane County, BATV, and the Illinois Voter Guide. And I will say that we also sent in the email addresses for all of those candidates running for City Council in Batavia as well, even though they're not in contested races, so that they can answer questions and have their answers placed on the Illinois Voter Guide. The moderator for tonight's forum is Barb Lymans, who is my dear friend and voter service chair from the Wheaton League of Women Voters. The league has a policy of not having a moderator moderate in a place where they vote. So I vote in Batavia, so I'm not moderating. So I'd like to introduce Barb Lymans.
Excuse my back, but I'll talk to the candidates so they know what's going to be happening, okay? My name is Barb Lymans, as Patty said, and I'm going to be serving as your moderator tonight. I'm a member of the Wheaton League of Women Voters and live in West Chicago. Therefore, I'm not eligible to vote for any of you in the upcoming election. As you all know, the League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan organization that does not endorse candidates. Throughout its history, the League of Women Voters has been providing opportunities for candidates seeking public office to speak directly to the voters through forums. It continues to be the policy for the League to hold forums for candidates in contested races. And tonight, we welcome the candidates for the Batavia Park District, Charles Kane, Samantha Sambell, and Julie Larson. So let's begin by reviewing some of the League ground rules for candidate forums. All of you candidates attending tonight have signed and returned the ground rules by the deadline established in the invitation. These rules specified the format, time limits, broadcasting of the forum, and other rules related to the conduct of the forum. And I'll be responsible for enforcing these rules. As a former school teacher, I have no problem doing that. So. The forum tonight is a candidate forum and not a debate. You candidates are expected to accurately represent the facts, and your responses reflect your own views and opinions. The League of Women Voters is not responsible for the accuracy of statements made by the candidates. It is a responsibility of you, the public, the news media, opposing candidates, to fact-check statements made by candidates if necessary. You will begin in alphabetical order with a 1.5-minute opening statement. You will then alternate an order in which you answer questions for 1 minute. After the question portion of the forum, you will each be given a 1-minute closing statement. These questions have been gathered in advance from the public as well as those in the audience tonight. A panel of experienced League members have reviewed the questions submitted and carefully screened questions for appropriateness for the office and to avoid duplication for tonight's event. And finally, we do want to emphasize how grateful we are for you attending tonight and being willing to serve in public office in Batavia. So this is a good time to remind our audience to please turn off your cell phones or mute them so that we're not disturbed by any sounds that may be coming across or weird ringtones. So let's begin with opening statements. And the first candidate is candidate Kane.
Hi, everybody. My name is Charles Kane. I've lived in Batavia for a few years, but just recently my partner and I purchased a house here where we live with her stepson, who's with us 50% of the time and is a student at the Rotolo Middle School, and 2 dogs, 4 chickens. I spend most of my time working. I have many jobs. My primary has been a music teacher. I teach over at Music Matters and have taught there for approximately 6 years at this point. I'm a career musician, and so that's what I've spent most of my life doing. But now that I've relatively settled in Batavia, I'm looking to get involved in a community that I feel very much a part of. I grew up in Elburn, and I lived there until I was 19. And the small town feeling of that never really followed me to any of the places that I lived until I settled here in Batavia. And so my primary interest in being here is I have no experience prior to this in city government. I want to see in a place that is already as equitable as Batavia, even more fostering of a community that is supportive and embracing of people of any walk of life. Myself, I don't identify, as anything. I'm a non-binary person. And there's an entire community of people who are queer, non-binary, gay, lesbian, trans, who do live in Batavia, and I do want to see more representation of that in city government. From the outside, I also see communities of people of different socioeconomic backgrounds and situations that aren't very present in the town. And while that isn't necessarily directly related to Park District, I just want to see more of that represented in city government and be part of a push towards a Batavia that is more equitable.
Thank you. Sure.
This is not working.
Oh, okay. Technical difficulties. Gives you a chance to take a breath. Oh, that's okay. Cold and rainy, no one wants to go outside anyway.
Say, I've been timing myself all week if they need my phone.
What's that? We now have an Apple iPhone convention going on.
They need the old fashioned, just the.
Perhaps we could get a 10-year-old to come up. Are we set?
Yes.
Okay. Candidate Bell, you have 90 seconds.
Good evening, Batavia. Thank you, League of Women Voters, for holding this forum. Thank you, fellow candidates, for coming tonight. My name is Samantha Bell, Sam for short. I've been a resident of Batavia since 2015. We moved here for the same reasons many people moved to the suburbs, and more specifically Batavia, because of the great schools, the great parks, the river, space to run and play, and the great Midwestern community. The Park District is unique because it offers opportunities to people of all ages. Our daughter Finn attended the Park District preschool, New Horizons, where Mrs. Gallagher is a local treasure. Our daughter has taken numerous classes, some taught by another treasure, Kathy Friedland, and she's been in summer camps. We use the Fun Guide. We are yearly past members of the Hall Quarry Beach. We love going to the Windmill City Festival, the Celebration of Lights. We frequently walk along the river, use the parks around town, and we're hoping the weather starts to cooperate so we can ice skate at the Depot Pond this winter, fingers crossed. I own and operate a service-based business here in Batavia, and our daughter attends a Batavia public school. We are Batavians. We love being a part of this very engaged community. it brings me great pride, whether it be in this role as a commissioner or just as an active resident moving forward. I believe in investing myself in the community, public service, and giving back. I'm currently on the board of directors for the Batavia Chamber of Commerce. I grew up moving every couple of years, and while there is value in that, I have loved growing into this community with my family. Being a mom and business owner,
I'm sorry, the time has elapsed.
Oh, thank you.
90 seconds, yes. Okay. Ready?
Now the pressure of making sure to not get cut off. All right, here we go.
Candidate Larson, you have 90 seconds or a minute and a half for your opening statement.
Hi, my name is Julie Larson. My husband and I have lived in downtown Batavia since 2010. My daughter attends Louise White, and my son attends Rotolo Middle. I am an operations manager at Eaton Corporation, which is a company that provides a variety of power solutions on a global scale. I've worked there 17 years, and I have a team of 28 that work for me across the United States. When I'm not doing that, you can find me and my family and friends in downtown Batavia enjoying a lot of the things that they have to offer. We live walking distance from the river, so that can take you just about anywhere you want to go. Batavia is beautiful and unique. Through the years, my family has taken advantage of a lot of the things that it has to offer, the Park District specifically. We do, concerts in the park, enrichment programs, Sunsation, summer camp, a lot of those types of kids club. And those kinds of things are important to me and my family. I'm passionate about investing in our parks and recreation as it's an important part of maintaining a healthy and growing community. Without a robust park district, families like mine and yours wouldn't have these opportunities, and I'm highly motivated to get more involved to continue to support these programs we have in place to nurture the river, the nature that we have here, adults, kids, and seniors alike.
Thank you. And now it's time for your first question. You will have 1 minute to respond to the question. Okay? All right. And we'll begin with candidate Bell. How would you describe an effective park board member? Why would you fit into this description?
Well, from my understanding, the park board is a governing board. So the park district and the team at the park district brings together budgets and ideas and ways that they can enrich the park district, and the park board listens to those, discusses it, and then makes decisions. I'm a great listener. I know how to process information, not only being a mom, but being a business owner here in Batavia. That allows me to work with people that have differing opinions, and I think I would be a very effective member of the park board. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Larson, how would you describe an effective park board member, and how would you fit into this description?
I would say that, some of the same thing that candidate Bell had stated as far as there's a lot of things that you have to do as working with other organizations, right, within the park district. It's not just a standalone, but it is a board. So you work together and you work with the rest of the organizations that support Batavia to have a better community overall. You can't make decisions in a vacuum, and that's what the park district doesn't do, right? They're very good at that kind of thing, and that's something from my background in the corporate world is knowing how to do that. You have to balance partnerships with everybody you work with and for, otherwise you can't be successful. And I think I'd be great at that in this role.
Thank you. Candidate Kane, the same question. Do you need me to repeat it for you? Okay.
An effective park district board member is somebody who doesn't get caught up in any sort of bureaucracy between any of these other governing bodies that have been mentioned. Somebody who, like myself, is ultimately pragmatic at the core and keeps in mind the needs of everybody that is involved in what these decisions actually mean in context, in the town, in the city. And for me, it's really important to take a look at everything from a top-down view. I do it with everything in my life, maybe to a fault at times. But it's important to keep everything in perspective when you're making decisions, even if they're small ones. It's important to think, how does this affect each sect of our community, and how can we best serve each sect of our community?
Thank you. The next question will begin with candidate Larson. What role should the Park District play in sustainability and environmental efforts?
Well, that's a great question. Thank you. Let me look through my notes. I'm just kidding. I think that the Park District, I mean, that's a big part of what they're supposed to be doing, right? Is working on, especially in Batavia, we have a lot of things that we want to keep nourish the environment. We have the Fox River. We have a lot of things that are important to us as far as, building up some of the stuff around the river that keeps the natural beauty. And that's a huge part of what the Park District does and continues to do. And along with their master plan is not to take away from any of those things. I think they're a big part of that, and they should be a big part of the decision making when it comes to the environment and the sustainability of Batavia.
Thank you. Candidate Kane, what role should the Park District play in sustainability and environmental efforts?
Well, it's at the very center of everything that the Park District has to do with. Quite obviously, if we didn't have nature, if we didn't have nature to go to because it was destroyed, we wouldn't necessarily need a park district. Everything would happen inside of community centers, which is fine. But I feel like in the name Park District, we need parks. And in Batavia, being an uncommonly beautiful place and sustained very well to this point, I think it's important that the Park District keeps that at the forefront of everything that they do. I think the question in every decision should be asked, is this beneficial to the nature we have around us, to the species, the native plants, the native animals that do live here? Is this going to support that? Is this going to improve that?
Candidate Bell, the same question.
I think the Park District does an excellent job at how they interact with nature. The number of parks that we have around the city, how we have to integrate life around the river, all of the wildlife and nature that has to be sustained and kept alive and thought about when we make big decisions, such as Depot Pond, or how the possibility of the dam being removed will affect wildlife and the nature of what Batavia looks like. I think all of those things come into play, and the Park District, it's a heavy role to play in making those decisions that are going to affect wildlife, nature, sustainability, and I look forward to helping make those decisions.
Candidate Kane, this question will begin with you. It's a two-part question, and it builds on the environmental question that we just answered. What responsibility does the Park District have for the removal of invasive plant species from Batavia's parks? Should the Park District more aggressively partner with the city and other landowners to remove invasive species from properties near Batavia parks? For example, the highly invasive purple loosestrife on the island directly north of the Riverwalk.
I am not a plant biologist, so I don't have any expertise in that side of it. But from what I do understand of nature and the flow of it, is that at times there can be surges of certain species that do endanger others. And if there's anything that I've learned from anything in my life, is that balance is extremely important. And that core of balance goes through every aspect of life, down to an atomic and subatomic level. And so without getting too heady there with any of that, I think it's extremely important that with the proper experts giving us the information, it is something that we should absolutely pursue, is to make sure we help steward the land while making sure that a balance is maintained. And sometimes that does include having to curb certain species, whether it be plants or animals.
Thank you. Candidate Bell.
I'm not sure what percentage of the role of the Park District is doing right now. I do know that removing invasive species can be an important part to allow our native species to thrive and grow. I also know that sometimes the public can be upset, just like, a lot of people are upset about the clearing throughout Fabian along the river. But I think in time and with education, people will see that once you're able to clear those things out, then the native wildlife and species are able to then thrive. So I think it's important that the Park District is a part of that to help maintain and keep our ecosystems alive and well. Thank you.
Candidate Larson, your response.
Yeah, I think that, building off of what the other candidates have said, we know that the invasive can be an issue, right? Talking about taking out the stuff that's been on some of the islands or along Fabian, and some of that becomes communicating and educating the public on what's happening and why, because sometimes people just think, oh, they're clearing it all out. As far as the Park District's role on collaborating with the city on it, I would have to know more about, to Sam's point, Candidate Bell's point, of what their percentage is right now and how much they're working. But I would think as part of the parks and the Parks District is it would be part of the responsibility of them to collaborate, like I've talked about before, with the other organizations to make sure that we're doing what the community wants and educating and communicating that effectively.
Thank you. Candidate Bell, we'll begin with you. What offerings or amenities are missing from the Park District's programs or facilities?
I know that pickleball is a hot topic these days with people of all age, maybe not all ages. I don't think infants are looking for pickleball, but I know that my parents enjoy it whenever they go around to places that offer it. I think that the Park District is working on procuring a pickleball dedicated space, but I don't think we have it just yet. Something else that they need, I'm not, I think that's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Candidate Larson.
I would say that one of the things that I would like to do as part of the Park District Board would be, I'm very involved in BYB baseball, and I would like to see more of a collaboration between the Batavia Youth Baseball and the Park District, and that we could better then maybe possibly expand the softball programs as well, and learn to maintain fields together and things like that. That's kind of one of a passion projects for mine that I would like to see the Park District get more involved with.
Thank you. Candidate Kane, what offerings or amenities are missing from the Park District's programs or facilities?
I don't have any specific recommendations. I think that sounds great with pickleball. That is a very, very hot topic these days. Yeah, right. From my perspective, again, it kind of goes back to larger issues for me. I think that we could offer more programs that have sliding scale payment options or that are just more affordable for people. Because there are a lot of people in the town of Batavia that absolutely can't afford any and all of those programs. I myself and my family, my stepson, my wife and I, we can't always. And we're very lucky to live here, but we are not the only people who can't necessarily access certain programs that are as wonderful as the ones that the Batavia Park District offers.
Candidate Larson, why have so many Park District referendums failed, in your opinion?
Oh, I guess we'll just go right for it, huh? I would say that the Park District referendum's failure is probably on the part of education for educating the public on what they're really about, potentially some groups that work against it, making sure that the right facts are out to the right people. I know the Park District does a really great job of having open forums for the public, as well as listening surveys and things like that. And just more of that, more of getting them involved, more social media in the right way, and working for the right reasons with the right people and connecting. And like I've mentioned, utilizing some of the other organizations as well, potentially, to make sure that the referendums that should be passed are passed.
Candidate Kane, the same question.
Well, I have gotten the vibe that referendum is a absolutely filthy, disgusting word to most people. It can be kind of a terrifying prospect because usually it means that taxes will go up, and sometimes they can go up quite a bit. A lot of times I would agree with the answer to the question from candidate to my left and say that education is a really important part of it. It's still going to be really tricky to convince people to go and vote for these referendums if it means that they're going to spend more money in the short term. But I think it's important to make part of that education very clear that these are long-term solutions for things that are going to make our city a much better place.
And Candidate Bell, Why have so many Park District referendums failed, in your opinion?
I think to piggyback off of both candidate Kane and candidate Larson, the education that I'm going to pivot that. I'm going to say that the referendums, when they go out for an advisory referendum, I don't think as many people that have a voice and want to share their voice actually do. I don't think we're getting a broad enough sample of what people really do want so that we can make a plan in order to make it pass. And then I also think that the increase of taxes is a huge bump that a lot of Batavians don't want to take. Being a taxpayer and a business owner, I know how hard it is to earn each dollar, and to think that our taxes are going to go up for something that we may want. We may have gotten all of the things we've wished for, but it can be very difficult.
Thank you. Candidate Kane, what challenges do you see the Park District facing fiscally or in other areas?
I think this question is spiritually related to the last one. Anything fiscal is going to be difficult. If it involves asking for money from the public or from within the Park District itself, you're always going to end up running into issues. And as the years go on with where we're at as a country, it's just going to get harder and harder and harder. And I think I'll just piggyback this right off the last question. I think anytime there is a referendum, I think anytime there is an ask for financial support from the city, from the people specifically in the city, it's always going to run into opposition. Every time, always, no matter what. There's always going to be a group of people who are not interested in spending money on something that does not directly serve them. And I think that will probably be the biggest struggle, is just finding that funding.
Candidate Bell. Sure. What challenges do you see the Park District facing in fiscal matters or in other areas, in your opinion?
Yeah, I think personally, I'm a very fiscally responsible, almost conservative person when it comes to matters of money. And to share what candidate Kane said, I agree that when things are being asked of the public to fund something that they may be able to benefit from, it's still difficult, and it may be a struggle for them in order to even vote for something that they want. I think there's also a large population in Batavia that won't be able to take part in some of these things. The elderly that are already upset about paying for taxes that are then going to the school district when they don't have children in the school district anymore. It can be difficult to convince people to increase their taxes for things that could benefit the community as a whole.
Candidate Larson.
So the question was around challenges the Park District has fiscally or otherwise. So I might go with the otherwise. I would say that, some of the things that are coming up with the Park District's master plan have to do with some very hot button issues like we've talked about, right? The referendum, potential land swap with some of the schools, the dam, which is always a big one with the depot pond and things like that. I would say the Park District has the next 5 to 10 years it's going to be an uphill battle. And I'm kind of excited for it, to be a part of it, to be honest, because these are not easy decisions for something like a Park District to do in a city like Batavia, while we try to balance, the beauty of this town, which we all love so much, with being a change agent towards growth and improvement for the future.
Candidate Bell, we'll begin with you. What role do you believe the Park District should play in promoting diversity, equity, and inclusion, and accessibility in properties and programs?
Well, I think the Park District, as a community-based district, should allow and accept and invite everybody of every color, race, gender, religion, and as far as accessibility goes, that can be a hurdle because you have to change infrastructure, and there's a cost associated with that. But that should definitely be built into the budget where it can be.
Candidate Larson, what role do you believe the Park District should play in promoting diversity, equity, and inclusion, and accessibility in properties and programs?
Well, we talk about, the Park District's role on having accessible and inclusive programs. I think that absolutely, I would say that, to Candidate Kane's point earlier, as far as some of the fiscal problems that some of the Batavia residents might have with some of these, there could be some great ideas, as he was mentioning, as far as, sliding scales and things like that. As far as accessibilities of the programs, I think that there's a wide variety, like 2,000 offerings for different things. And if anybody the community has other ideas or things that should be brought to the table that's missing because the Park District just hasn't thought of it or someone hasn't brought it, absolutely. There should be nothing that's off the table as long as it's something that makes sense for the Park District to be involved in.
Candidate Kane?
Well, I'm a little bit of a broken record on this issue. This is kind of mostly where my head is at. I'm all about inclusivity, and I'm fully aware of that, and I'm happy about it. With programs, the Park District itself is only going to be as good as the people that it supports, right? And if it only supports a certain group of people, it's not worth a whole lot, because while we do have a community that does sway towards one demographic more than others, it doesn't mean that we can just ignore the fact that we have those other people in the community as well. With programs themselves, and specifically going back to the cost of them, because of systemic issues in our country at large, if the cost is high and prohibitive, you're automatically going to be kind of getting rid of demographics that are people who are in minority groups, whether it be religious minorities, cultural minorities, gender minorities, things like that, because you're often going to find people like that in lower income situations, again, because of systemic issues in our country. So I think inclusive pricing then means inclusive Park District.
Thank you. Well, specifically, the next question deals with a demographic close to my heart. What services for seniors do you think the Park District should offer? And we'll begin with Candidate Larson.
I would say that, the Park District, like what you talked about, throughout this forum, offers a lot of different programs. One of the things that I find interesting that they're working on as part of a new renovation plan is the Clark Island renovation. And I think that some of that program has now, obviously there's stuff for younger children, there's skate parks, which seniors are welcome to do, I'm sure, if they're interested. But so no skate park. Okay, I'll take it from a different angle. But there's also like outdoor exercise classes and things like that. There's a lot of facilities that we've purchased downtown that will have the opportunities for museum spaces and park spaces and the Batavia TV space. And I think that when we utilize our spaces correctly, there's going to be programs for everybody.
Thank you. Candidate Kane?
Specifically to mention, we touched on there's a lot of programs for kids. That is true. There's a lot of kids in Batavia, but it is not a city full of children. As wonderful as children are, I'm around them every single day. We do have a lot of seniors, right? And we need things that are specifically geared towards that. I know there are, like we said, some exercise programs. My wife frequently attends down at the Peg Bond Center, the senior exercise, and she absolutely loves it. I think making sure that there is spaces given that are easily accessible by the older people in our community is really, really important, because just getting to a program is a little more difficult for somebody who's in that age bracket than it is for a family to go or to drop their kids off at. So physical accessibility is a really important step there. And I think that's all. That's all I have to say.
Candidate Bell.
Can you repeat the question?
What services for seniors do you think the Park District should offer?
Well, I think the Park District already does offer quite a few things. I know that they have non-specific, it's not dedicated, but they do have pickleball, and I know seniors are loving the pickleball, along with other ages as well. I know that they're already offering yoga classes and lots of other things for seniors. But as candidate Kane just said, I think accessibility for seniors is probably a big part of that too, so that they can get there. I think a lot of times where seniors live, if they live in sort of more of a community-based living assisted place, they often have buses or shuttles that will take them to the grocery store or to the Park District classes. But possibly reaching out to more of those so that we're able to reach more seniors would allow them to then take the classes that are already offered.
Thank you. We'll begin with candidate Kane for this question. Are there partnerships the Park District should pursue to enhance programs and or other services and/or services? I'll repeat it one more time. Are there partnerships the Park District could pursue to enhance programs and/or services?
Well, I know the Park District already has to deal with the school district quite a bit. They're very intertwined. I think that bond can probably be strengthened. A lot of the school facilities are perfectly adequate facilities for a lot of the Park District programs. I know we already do that, but I think even if that relationship exists, it should be fostered and it should be improved in all the ways that it possibly can. I think in addition to fostering that relationship, reaching out to members of the community, whether they're involved in a group, a service, a business, or just an individual, to offer more diverse programs. I think involving the community in the programs themselves, which again, I know happens at times, but getting a little more diverse with the offerings and asking the public and teaming with the public specifically to offer these.
Candidate Larson.
Can you repeat it again?
Sure.
Thank you.
Are there partnerships the Park District could pursue to enhance programs or services?
Yeah, I would say that, obviously, partnering with the other organizations in Batavia, Main Street and things like that. And there's a lot of good self-grown businesses and things like that in Batavia would be great to partner with. I would also like to point out that, the Park District does a lot of different programs or classes or events, and, partnering with outside independent businesses that put on some of these one night type organizations, something kind of fun, pop-up type things could be an interesting take on it. Something a little outside the box, something that we might not do, escape room type situation, or something interesting that just comes up once. Could be, my friends are always saying, God, you guys are always doing something in Batavia, which we are. I mean, the Park District's a big part of that, and sky's the limit.
And Candidate Bell.
I think that, like candidate Kane said, that fostering the relationship that we have with the school district could open up a lot of avenues for us to use different spaces that would be adequate and perfectly. It would be great if we could go in there more often. I think possibly partnering with some lower income housing areas so that children in those that live in those locations would have access to more classes and camps and things like that, possibly partnering with Chip in Batavia to find out how the Park District can then help lower income families and children and really people of all ages to be more so that they can participate with the Park District more often.
Well, this will be your last question, so you can take a deep breath and relax. And it's a great question. What are the best things about the Batavia Park District? And we'll begin with Candidate Bell.
The Park District is fantastic. All of the parks around town are wonderful. They're so well maintained. I love that when they use the playground equipment so well and for so long, but when it's still in such a great condition, they will then send it off to a country that is in need and can't afford such great equipment that we do. I think that's just a wonderful thing that many people probably don't really even know about. All of the classes, all of the fun guides, the Hall Quarry Beach, the Depot Pond, it makes this town very charming and very inviting for not only residents, but for people to come and visit. I think the Park District does an excellent job.
Candidate Larson.
I would say that, there's 2,000 small towns outside of the city of Chicago, and not all of them have what Batavia has, and the Park District is a big part of that. We do the river so well here. We utilize that, and the Park District does that, whether or not it's nurturing just the nature that it's around it, but it's also utilizing it to bring people in, and when they come, they stay. I know I did. and my family, and we're not going anywhere. And some of that, I walk that river every single day when the weather's nicer. And it never gets old. And it's beautiful. And I'd love to see the Park District's plans to continue to build up that beauty with balancing the beauty of the nature as well as making it a usable resource for the community to use as well.
And Candidate Kane, what are the best things about the Batavia Park District?
Well, Batavia has a very robust park district, and I feel like its services are used, period. Which is great, because a lot of times in towns like this that are smaller, part of this kind of urban sprawl that we're all amongst here outside of Chicago, things like this get offered, but they don't get used. And I feel like in Batavia, the reason we see such an engagement in the park district programs speaks for the type of city that Batavia is. It's filled with people who actually care. And actually care about the things that are available to them, to their families, and they care about being part of it. And that works both ways. Anybody that I've met in the Park District at this point in my candidacy shows that passion that only comes from actually being connected to the people that you're serving. And that's a very, very, very special thing, and it is very uncommon.
Thank you. Well, you will now have 1 minute for your closing statements. And we'll begin with Candidate Larson.
Well, I'd just like to say that, thank you for inviting me to come out here and speak with you guys today. This has been not quite as anxiety-ridden as I thought it was going to be, so appreciate that. I just want to say that, I'm highly motivated to be a part of this Park District Commissioning Board, and I'm really excited for it. Batavia is a huge part of who I am, and I want to continue to be a part of that and foster the Park District and what it has to offer this community. So thank you.
And Candidate Kane?
Well, I'm going to be here for a while. My wife and I live in her childhood home, and her son will be the 5th generation of Batavian to live in that house, and we intend on staying there, and hopefully he'll want to purchase it too when we're done with it. And because I'll be here for a while, I want to be involved, and I want to be a part of the people that are here. I want to be a part of helping make the decisions that support and serve the people that are here, no matter which little organized group that you may belong to. At the end of the day, that group doesn't matter so much when everybody is being supported by something like the Park District, being offered programs and services that Batavia has that show this love and show this appreciation for the different groups of people that are here. And I really would love to just be further part of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Bell.
If I'm fortunate enough to be elected, I believe I'd be an excellent representative of Batavia in the commissioner's role. My experience of running a business for 5 years in Batavia has allowed me to work with various groups ranging from large management companies, sole proprietorships, residents in the Fox River Valley region, low-income housing management and residents. Along with running the daily operations of the business, I'm advancing innovative changes, implementing new aspects within the business, problem and conflict resolution, budgeting, forecasting, risk management. These are some of the skills that I'd be able to bring to the position, and this is why I'm asking for your vote on April 4th. Thank you.
Thank you. Please join me in thanking the candidates for being with us this evening. Our democracy thrives when all of us are engaged. Attending or watching a candidate forum is an excellent way to be empowered to join discussions on local issues and make your voice heard on Election Day. We hope that each and every one of you will vote and inspire your family, friends, and neighbors to do the same. Information on how and when to vote can be found on the Illinois Voter Guide, or your Central Kane County League of Women Voters website, or your local county election commission website. And I'll turn the podium back to Patty.
Thank you, candidates. And now we're going to take a short break so that we can have the school board candidates be seated. So
Relax.
thank you.
Let's begin by reviewing some of the league ground rules for candidate forums. All candidates attending tonight have signed and returned the ground rules by the deadline established in the invitation. These rules specified the format, time limits, broadcasting of the forum, and other rules related to the conduct of the forum, and I will be responsible for enforcing these rules. The format tonight is a candidate forum, not a debate. Candidates are expectedly to accurately represent the facts, and their responses reflect their own views and opinions. The League of Women Voters is not responsible for the accuracy of statements made by the candidates. It is the responsibility of the public, news media, opposing candidates to fact-check statements made by candidates if necessary. The candidates will begin in alphabetical order with a 1.5-minute opening statement. They will alternate the order in which they answer questions for 1 minute. After the question portion of the forum, each candidate will give a 1-minute closing statement. The questions have been gathered in advance from the public, and a panel of experienced members of the League of Women Voters has reviewed the questions submitted and carefully screened questions for appropriateness for the office and to avoid duplications for tonight's event. Finally, I do want to emphasize how grateful we are to all of you candidates who are not only willing to serve in office, but have agreed to be here tonight. So in advance of the forum, I offer my thanks. So let us begin with opening statements. Candidate Arlandu, we'll begin with you. You have 90 seconds.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. First of all, thank you to the League of Women Voters for hosting this forum. Appreciate the opportunity. My name is Rob Arlandu. Been a resident of the school district for over 15 years. Have a son that just graduated in last May in 2022 and is in the first year of college, and have a sophomore at Batavia High School, my daughter. And we're proud residents of this school district. And I come to you as a candidate just from a sense of no grievances or any issues per se driving me, but just a sense of community. Being a part of the Batavia community, I wanted to be able to offer some of the skills, some of my perspective that I've acquired, and share it with the school district and the community itself. So I'm a product of the public school education. We came here, my parents came here from India and started in public school. So we have a deep respect for public school system. And we don't take it for granted, because where my parents are from, it's not a given that you go to school. So having public school opportunities is very important. And then also from a professional perspective, I'm an engineer. I work with very diverse teams. I work with budgets. I work with
Thank you
different
very
people.
much.
Thank you.
Candidate Dremel.
My name is Kathy Dremel. Thank you so much for having us here tonight. I moved here with my family over 17 years ago. Like most people who seem to come to Batavia with children, we moved here for the schools. Prior to being married and having 3 children who all went through the Batavia School District from kindergarten, I spent 15 years in the business world. I have an MBA. Then I had the joy of staying home with my children and being incredibly involved in their activities when they were in school, which is actually what led me to run for the school board the first time. So I am seeking re-election at this time. And I have loved every minute that I have spent on the school board, and that led me to 6 years ago becoming a teacher. So I have the interesting perspective of having been a business person, a stay-at-home mom, a mom of children in the school district. Now I am a parent who does not have children in the school district, so I know what that's like, and I'm a teacher. So I come with a broad variety of experience that I'm still very passionate and excited about.
Thank you. Candidate Fender.
Good evening. Thanks for having us and allowing us to participate in tonight's forum. Please forgive me for my lack of public speaking skills. This is something I never imagined myself doing, and I'm a bit nervous. My name is Gabrielle Fender, and I am running for school board because I am truly concerned about the future success of our children. how our district is using our money and the information or lack thereof that the district shares with the community. The majority of our students are not meeting proficiency levels, or in other words, they're not demonstrating adequate understanding of the knowledge and skills needed relative to the Illinois learning standards. In 2022, only 48.8% met or exceeded academic standards. This is down from 51%, and in 2019 and 62% in 2017. So Batavia's performance levels have dropped 13.4% since 2017. The average of all districts in the entire state only dropped 10%. Our district is not providing our children with the knowledge and skills they need once they leave the high school. To me, this is not acceptable considering our county has some of the highest property taxes in Illinois, and our district spends more per pupil than some of our higher achieving neighboring towns. I know our children have big dreams for their future. They want to achieve and they want to succeed. We have the obligation to educate every single child in our school district.
Thank you so much. Candidate Gonzalez-Thomas.
Hello, I'm Raquel Gonzalez-Thomas. I'm a mother of 2 of Batavia High School graduates. Since being involved in the community and Batavia schools, I decided to run for school board to advocate for all students, teachers, staff, and the Batavia community. And I also want to help promote a safe environment for all students, faculty, and not only for them to succeed, but to thrive after their education in Batavia. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Raymond.
Yeah, thank you for having us all here today. Appreciate that. I've lived here for a little over 17 years, and I have 3 children in the district, a 11th grader, a 10th grader, and a 6th grader. I've been very involved in the community. I currently coach the Batavia Feeder basketball program, the one that's affiliated with the high school. I've also coached the TCSA soccer, and I've also done the BYB baseball, so several years of each of those. I'm running on 3 key issues, and it's, I agree with Gabrielle on some of these, is that nearly 6 out of our 10 students are not proficient in math or ELA, according to the official Illinois report card. And this is, whether it's SAT readiness, the numbers are very similar. We are trailing St. Charles and Geneva significantly in both of those. And I don't know why, what's going on in the schools, especially when you consider that we're paying on average almost $900 more per student per year in taxes. We are paying more and getting less. I don't know anybody that's okay with that, and how things are being run right now. That's not an acceptable situation to happen there. The third thing is that this district has not been transparent. I have met with them on many issues. They know they're not being transparent. They tell me they can't say certain things, and that has got to stop. I've never thought I'd need to step into a role like this, but my commitment to voters is I will be transparent. I will work to ensure that taxes equal the value. And most importantly, I will put the focus back on education that we all need and deserve. Hopefully we'll get a chance to dive into some of these issues a little deeper here soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Sliger, your opening statement.
Hi, I'm Danielle Sliger. I'd like to thank the League and everyone here tonight for being here with us. I've lived in Batavia for 10 years with my husband. We have 2 children. My daughter is in 5th grade and my son is in kindergarten at H.C. Storm. I'm currently a campus monitor supervising during lunch and recess. Before that, I was a stay-at-home mom for 6 years. I've been very involved in our school community as a volunteer in various ways, and ever since my daughter entered the school district. Now that I'm a staff member, I've been able to experience our school community in a new way. I'm running for school board because I'd like to help promote equality and equitable education for all our students by increasing communication and transparency between the board and our community, advocating for inclusion and diversity in our schools and on the board, and by promoting support and safety for all of our students and all of our staff. I'm grateful we have this opportunity to answer questions and help our community make an informed voting decision. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now begin the questions that have been submitted by the community and those in attendance. We'll begin with candidate Dremel. And the first question is this. Please describe an effective school board member and how do you fit into this description?
An effective school board member needs to understand that a board member is a unique position. When you're a school board member, it's really hard to understand that you're not a roll up your sleeves, I get to get out into the ground level and do the work. We hire a superintendent, we supervise the superintendent, we set policy. So we set the tone for the district, or at least we attempt to. And then we have those things happen by partnering with our employees to actually have the work be done.
Just a word of advice to all the candidates. You need to pull the microphone closer to you and watch for the green light to make sure that our visitors at home can hear you, okay? Candidate Fender, describe an effective school board member and how do you fit in this description?
I think an effective school board member has many skills in listening and communicating and being able to relate to the issues that are going on in their community. I believe I would be a good candidate because I have experience in education. I was a teacher. I'm a parent. I know some about the academics. I also am very good at listening and trying to understand and ask questions and relate to whatever needs to be related to.
Thank you. Candidate Gonzalez Thomas.
I think an effective school board member is one that actually listens to the community, the staff, and they help decide what is best for the child's need. I think I play a part in that role as being one of a group of 7 and helping to come up with policies that encompass that. We just have to work together, and hopefully I can do that because in my current position, my job now, it's all about compromise and working together to have a better facility and a better education system.
Candidate Raymond?
There it is. I think that the main thing is that kids, parents, and taxpayers are who our constituents are in that order, and that we have to ensure that that is the focus at all times. I don't believe that that has always been the focus with everything. This is a non-political position. I'm a moderate. And so what we do right now has to have the focus on those and those things alone. And I think we've got our attention a little bit distracted on what's important. And what's important is getting our test scores for our children back up to where they need to be. And the drop that's happened, even pre-COVID, the drop that's been going on, where we were over 6 out of 10 kids being proficient to now just about 4 out of 10 kids being proficient, is in a large part because our focus has gone off of what really matters.
Thank you. Candidate Sliger.
I think that a quality school board member is somebody who, I think I'm going to reflect a lot of what's already been said, but someone who can listen, who thinks communication and transparency are key, someone who is willing to collaborate, be creative, and really at the end of the day, it's what matters is every single student. And so I think I fit in this position by those are things I hold very important, and I'm willing to do whatever it takes to make sure that every single student is getting a quality and equal education, make sure our students and staff are all safe. And, if I don't know the answer to something, I will go outside to our community and make sure that we do find a solution.
And lastly, Candidate Arulandu.
Yeah, effective board member, everything that's been said is very true. Listener, communication, collaborate. Also, just to pick up on one other thing is we need to get more out into the community. We don't want our board members just to come once a month, listen to some presentations and then go home until the next month. So I think an effective board member should be out in the community, talking to people, listening to their concerns, that's students, community, parents, teachers, et cetera. And then we need to be able to, when we hear issues, dig into them and do our research and not just, solely rely on what we're hearing, but we need to do some of our own research and find out about the issues and make sure we have all the appropriate information.
Thank you. The next question will begin with Candidate Fender. What are your 3 overall educational priorities that in a perfect world you would accomplish during your time in office? And why are these important?
Say that again. 3 most important.
Yeah, what are your 3 overall educational priorities that in a perfect world you would accomplish during your times in office? And why are these the most important?
So, number 1, most educational priority is to increase the test scores. And the second one would be to ensure that all the students are feeling safe and appreciated in the school. And I guess the third one would be to let the community know that their money is being spent appropriately for all the right resources. And the second part of that question was why? Okay, just because those are the most important things. Every student deserves the right to the best possible education they can get, no matter what. And it's the responsibility of the public and the community to make sure that the money is, or it's the responsibility of the school board to make sure the money is being spent for those children, period.
Candidate Gonzalez-Thomas, what are your 3 overall educational priorities that in a perfect world you would accomplish during your time in office? And why are these important?
Not in any particular order, but the first one would be the curriculum, making sure that the teachers and students have the correct tools and resources to be successful in the classroom. Another one would be to have a safe environment for everybody, and that would be having a nice DEI program. I think those 3 are the top, and it's important for me because I think that creates a safe environment for students. It creates a safe environment for teachers and the staff. We just want to make sure that everyone has the right tools needed and that they feel safe and welcomed.
Thank you. Candidate Raymond, your 3.
Yeah, so the first thing is student performance. That's number 1. That everything should boil up to student performance. That is the overarching one, and everything under that, in my opinion, is a sub-bullet point of that. But that is the key, the most key thing. The other key things are making sure that we have a lot of wonderful teachers here in the district, and they don't have all the resources they need. They need to have the empowerment, and they need to have what they need to perform well. I know that there's one teacher here in attendance today who I actually sent her an email last week or earlier this week because my daughter specifically called out how big of an impact she had on her. And that was, never done that before in my life, but it was something that I noticed a difference in my daughter right there. And the third thing I would say is that we have to hold our kids accountable. That lowering standards to meet achievement isn't our goal. Our goal was to keep the standards high and ensure that kids hit those standards. And so we have to have goals that are stretching our kids, not just making them feel safe by doing less.
Candidate Sliger.
I'm going to echo again probably a little bit of what's been said, but top priority would to be to ensure that our students feel safe, are safe, feel heard, and ensure that every student has access to the resources that we are able to provide. Really go out of our way to listen to what's needed, especially to those community members whose voices are not usually heard, and really understand what those needs are and how do we actually provide them with the access to resources we're able to provide, allowing for a successful education. Definitely diversity, equity, inclusion really embodies everything that I would hope would bring to an overall educational success. And I think all these things really are what will provide our kids with the best academic abilities and success in the long run.
Candidate Ayulandu.
So in this particular order, so creating that safe, robust learning environment for students and teachers, I think that sets the foundation. And then making sure you have talented teachers and staff within your school system. And I don't mean comparable, I mean best in class staff to teach those kids. And then as a result of that, we'll get those academic goals and statistics that we want to achieve. Once again, where we're not just compared to other communities, about the same. We want to be better. We want to be best in class.
And Candidate Dremel.
I would agree that we need to have a refocus on learning. We have talked about that at board meetings. I have asked that question more than once. We talk about a lot of things, and I keep saying, when are we talking about students and learning? So that is definitely a focus that this school district needs to bring back in a big way. So that's the number one thing. I would say the second thing is opportunities, and that's twofold. So that's going to be my second and third. Opportunities besides just going to college, that is one thing that we've been working toward, and I think we've made great strides. I think there's a lot of growth there, but opportunities for all students to have the same ability to perform, to succeed, and to be able to access the privileges of being a Batavian. And right now we know that that's not always playing out in an equal way, and we need to figure out how to fix that, because again, our focus needs to be on learning.
The next question will begin with candidate Gonzalez-Thomas. And the question is this: what should be the role of parents in school decisions about curricula?
I think that the curriculum, we have experts in the country that are paid to write the curriculum. And Illinois has standards. So we have to ensure that Illinois meets the standards, and the curriculum is teaching those standards. I don't know how much role parents can have if we have certain standards. So we have to meet these standards in order for us to have a successful, according to Illinois, successful curriculum. So if they have certain issues, we may not be able to divide from that. So it's going to have to be, I think we need to see what they want to have changed. If there's certain issues that they don't want us to teach, we have to go by policies too, and the standards. So.
Candidate Raymond, what should be the role of parents in school decisions about curricula?
Well, parents can't really have a decision or choices in it when we're not transparent. Parents don't know everything that's going on in the school right now. And the more that I've dug in the last year, the things that I've seen, it is shocking to me what is going on in some of these areas that if parents knew, they would want to have a bigger voice in it. Now, the mechanism of doing that's very challenging. I mean, you can't send it out to vote and have everybody vote, is this okay, is this not okay? But you can let the parents know what is actually going on. We can't have situations where in a curriculum where there's signs on the wall comparing Republicans to Hitler and Mussolini. That can't happen. And we can't have signs on the wall saying capitalism, I call it crapitalism, Karl Marx, and that allowed to continue. And even when it's brought to the district's attention, it's not being stopped. So parents need to know what's going on so they can have a voice.
Candidate Sliger.
I think as far as a parent's role in deciding on curriculum, communication, again, is important. If there is an issue or, there's not enough inclusivity, whatever it may be, I mean, there definitely should be channels open for parents to have discussion. I think in the end, we should be responsible to consider what's being said and, look through at what are our policies, what do our experts, think about that. And I really think we need to rely on who we have in our schools, and those are our experts. And I'm not someone who could decide on what we should be teaching and not teaching, but I would like to know that my voice would be heard. But in the end, I do feel that who's in the schools are really responsible for pulling it all together, and I do have trust in them.
Thank you. Candidate Orlando.
They absolutely have a role in contributing their voice into what the curriculum should be. But it's one part of it, and they should have their input. But we also have guidelines. We also have standards that need to be met as well. And that's where we rely on our staff to give us that guidance. So parents have a voice. They should have a voice. They should be able to say what's on their mind and have the administration, the board, listen to it, and it should be factored in.
Candidate Dremel.
Parent partnerships are extraordinarily important. That said, again, she's right, my candidate to my left, that our standards should be driving what our curriculum is. And I do think that that while parent voice is important, we're always going to have opposing views on what people think is appropriate to be taught. And therefore, again, we always need to be referring back to what are the standards. And if there's questions about how those standards are being implemented, conversation, communication, that is all important. But again, there's just a reality that I might not always like what that Illinois standard says, but it is the standard, and that is what drives what our curriculum is.
Candidate Fender.
Yeah, I tend to agree with everybody else here. Is, well, the parents' role is to know what the curriculum is by attending, the curriculum meetings at the beginning and know what's going on, and also so they can support their children. But if they have concerns about what is being, or I shouldn't say what is being taught, because again, that's driven by the state and the standards, or how it's being taught, then that should be communicated to the teacher or the board, and they should be listened to. And, it should be looked at from their point of view. So, their role is just, like Kathy said here, is to be a partner, but to understand that, some things just can't be changed by the board because it's driven by the state.
Thank you. Candidate Raymond, we'll begin with you. How will you handle situations when you receive frequent comments and complaints from members of the community? I'll repeat it one more time for you. How will you handle situations when you receive frequent comments and complaints from members of the community?
Well, I think the community feedback is critical. I encourage the community to offer complaints and to offer this. And this is one of the things that we talk about earlier about everybody has a voice, but if that voice is just squashed and the logical answers aren't even, they're not even addressing things, and they just want to push things aside, who cares if you have a voice and they hear you? So I think that the item about making sure that the community with any kind of disagreements is we got to sit down, we got to listen to them. Like I said, I'm a moderate, and I think that there's a lot of situations. Everybody has biases. We have to understand what our biases are in order to actually be unbiased, because we got to take those into consideration. And that is one of the things that I thoroughly believe in. And I've got to listen to what everybody says, and then make a plus and a minus chart. And what's the total value at the end of the day? It's not emotional. Our kids, these decisions, when I hold my kids, that's emotional. Making decisions like this is logical and not emotional.
Thank you. Candidate Sliger.
Can you repeat the question, please?
Yes. How will you handle situations when you receive frequent comments and complaints from members of the community?
Thank you. If I'm receiving frequent comments and complaints, I would definitely take that as a hint that we need to have further discussions. I don't think that's a negative thing, and I think that it definitely falls into, again, making sure everyone has a voice, and that is part of that process. There is a lot of strength in us recognizing that we all come from different backgrounds. And so some of those comments and complaints may come from something that we do not understand. And so providing that open and safe space for the communication to happen is very important. And I think is what will lead to our success to providing our students with the best education possible.
Candidate Arulander.
Yeah, I think by us running for these positions, I think we should expect that. That's something you're signing up for for this position. So, and frankly, we should welcome it to a certain degree. If we're out at the grocery store or, at the bank and we run into fellow community members and they have something to say, we should listen. So with that being said, obviously there's limitations on maybe what we can do, but it doesn't hurt. And I think we should expect that we get those complaints, and it doesn't hurt that we listen, and when we can follow up and do something about it, we should.
Candidate Dremel, how will you handle situations when you receive frequent comments and complaints from members of the community?
I think that we have years of experience of listening respectfully. We always respond and follow up with every complaint that we've received. So if we have student concerns, we have our administrators or our social workers or whomever is appropriate follow up with the student who speaks to us. If we have community members complain, we've always had people who were the most appropriate person sit down with that person. That said, we will never, ever make everyone happy. So the point is to listen, respect, act when we can, and try to communicate as best as possible.
Candidate Fender?
I don't know if I have a lot to add, but basically, I would spend my time and I would be listening and gathering information as much as possible so I can understand where the complaints or comments are coming from. And then I would work with my fellow board members to, see if there's absolutely anything we can do. And I would just respond back as honestly and transparently as I possibly could, whether it's good news, bad news, or whatever. Just be honest and lay out the facts.
Candidate Gonzalez-Thomas. Yes. How will you handle situations when you receive frequent comments and complaints from members of the community?
I think that as a board member, if we're getting frequent comments and complaints, like it was mentioned previous, I think we have to address it as board, as a team, and work to see where we can rectify any type of complaints and so forth. And like everyone else said, just be transparent about it. If there's an issue that we can resolve and do it respectfully, then we should. If there's some issues where we can't, we'll try to address and be honest with everyone and why we can't.
Thank you. The next question will begin with Candidate Sliger. And your question is this: what role do you believe public schools should play in promoting diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging?
I believe that is probably down to the core, what we should be promoting. Everyone should be promoting that on a regular basis. I don't think it's an issue that should be political, that should be questioned. It's, everyone deserves to have a space where they feel they belong, have a space that they feel that they are seen and represented. And I think that it is extremely important that we do everything that we can do to ensure that we are providing that space. Like I said, I think that's to the core what we need to do, and that's the only way that we are going to serve every single student in our district.
Candidate Arulando.
Yeah, we play a big role in that. It's we need to create those environments where everybody feels welcome and safe. And then what does that mean? That means, we're learning from each other, we're growing. It makes us better citizens when we know things about other people, other cultures, other situations. We should be promoting that, encouraging that. And then for our students and teachers, I think that's just going to make us better as people and as a community.
Candidate Dremel, what role do you believe public schools should play in promoting diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging?
I think it's foundational. School districts are in a unique position to just create that environment from a child's first memory of being out in the world. That said, it's not easy because every student is different. And that is something that we have been grappling with for years now, that every student has different needs, and we need to, as a school district, do everything possible to create systems and structures that allow us to meet every student's needs. We can't just sweep them all into a group and say this one thing is going to fix or serve them. And so that is a challenge that we need to just constantly be, like I said, a foundation of what we're doing.
Candidate Fender.
Well, the schools play a very important role. You know, it's so important for every student to feel safe at their school and to feel that they're wanted there and that they belong there. I have a lot of experience with children with special needs. I was a special needs teacher, and my sister who is special needs. And it's very difficult because you want to make sure everybody is a part of it, and feels that they should be there. But to design the classroom for everybody's individual needs is extremely difficult. But it needs to get done, and we need people to know. We need ways also to be able to identify students who may be feeling that they're not included and are not communicating that. So, and not just depend on them stepping out, and because we need to be there for them and their emotional needs.
Thank you. Candidate Gonzalez-Thomas.
I think, can you repeat the question just to make sure I remember it right?
What role do you believe public schools should play in promoting diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging?
I think they play a very important role in it. I think they need to promote it. I think that all the children, like was said earlier, they need to feel wanted. They need to feel safe. They need to have a safe place. And if they feel safe, then they will be more relaxed and comfortable in the environment, so it'll help them with their learning. We need to have it. Public schools need to promote it.
Candidate Raymond.
Yeah, can you repeat it one more time? I'm sorry.
Sure. What role do you believe public schools should play in promoting diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging?
I think that is a very critical thing that our children grow up feeling that. Now, I come from a very broadly diverse background. I'm 15+% Native American. I grew up in a house full of Latinos. We had 10 of them. My mom helped them get green cards. I slept on a couch for 3 years. My brother-in-law is African American. After my mom passed away, I got a whole bunch. So I've seen what happens. And so the question though is that, are we spending more time on this than we are reading and writing and arithmetic? And the thing that it can go too far is that's my concern. And I'm going to read something that went to every single teacher in the district. Christianity places such importance on individuals' relationship with Jesus that culture has often been seen as a distraction to faith. Since people who don't believe in Jesus are consigned to damnation, many denominations focus exclusively on saving the souls of non-Christians. The primary value in understanding another group's language is to translate the New Testament to win them over to God. This went to every teacher in the district. Is this, when we say DEI, is this what we mean? Because it can go too far. Let's get a balance.
Thank you. The next question will begin with you, Candidate Arredondo. How do you think Batavia Public Schools should support the mental health of students?
Well, I think that comes down to resources. Coming out of COVID, I think we've all heard stories of the impact that's had on our students and their well-being, and teachers too, for that matter. And we need to make sure that we have the appropriate resources to support their needs. And that does mean having maybe extra people specializing in that type of care and providing that type of support. But I think it's important. And if we want students to have that well-being, those are the kind of resources we need to have.
Candidate Dremel, how do you think Batavia Public Schools should support the mental health of students?
I actually think that mental health of students is one of the biggest factors that we are, one of the biggest hurdles and dangers that we're facing right now. And I'm saying that as a teacher and as a school board member. I work in a high school in a very similar district to Batavia. I hear it as a Batavia board member. Our students are struggling, and they're struggling on a variety of levels. And hospitalizations, referrals, stress, anxiety are all taking a toll. And we're talking about we need to focus on learning, and we absolutely need to. Students can't focus on learning when they can't even see the relevance of the school day because the stresses and anxieties that they are facing are so distracting that they can't even focus. So it is absolutely, again, foundational to what we need to do because students cannot learn if they don't feel like they belong, if they don't feel like they're safe, and if their mental health is a barrier to that.
Candidate Fender?
It's hard to top that. Staff and teachers, all school staff, they need to be educated. And first of all, I think they need to have their eyes wide open. They need to look for red flags, whether it's in behaviors or communication, or all of a sudden a student who stops doing homework and just kind of ask the questions, not being pushy, but staff and teachers need to be educated on how to approach and handle. And then they need to either reach out to the parents or other counselors or somebody else and the students and families need to be offered any assistance they need, and we need to let them know that the school is there for them.
Candidate Gonzalez-Thomas.
So the state of Illinois passed a legislation that allows students to take 5 mental health days. I think that Batavia should encourage that, and I'm sure they are. Also, I think that we need to reach out to local communities and local resources to, if we are not meeting the needs, the social and emotional needs, reach out to the local communities and resources to make sure in helping them have the needs of the students met. So whether we can have someone come in from the outside and train to look for cues and, what do we do in these situations? That's something I would do.
And Candidate Raymond, how do you think Batavia Public Schools should support the mental health of students?
Right now, it's kind of scary as a parent with the mental health. And one of the challenges is that the control from the school or from whatever, with social media and everything that's out there, it feels like it's so difficult to keep it under wraps. When we were kids, we didn't deal with the stuff these kids are dealing with today, and it is scary. And this is one area that I do think that it is important that the school helps, because bullying, it used to be kids would push each other. Now, the things that are said in text is just so cruel, and it's ridiculous. But bullying is a lot of different forms, and we can't choose what kind of bullying is okay and what kind of bullying is not okay. And so there are a lot of people that are getting bullied for different reasons, if someone didn't want to wear their mask, they were bullied for it. Whatever the popular crowd is doing at the moment, there's bullying that goes on. But I do think that we do need to do a lot of get some people in and figure out how to handle this better, because we do not have a good grasp on it. And I don't have a great solution other than that, because it is endemic in our society.
Candidate Sliger?
I just agree with what all of my fellow candidates have said. All really good points. And I think that truly we need to have more resources inside the school. And I realize we have a shortage and a lot goes into that. So it is a really complex issue, but there is nothing more important. We can't have students learning and succeeding. They're not safe. They're not doing well. I think transparency, open discussions, I feel we tend to kind of hide some of the issues that happen and keep it low. I think we need to have these open discussions as a community, search for resources outside in our community, and try to get more inside of our schools. I agree with everything that everyone said. I mean, it's a really important issue.
Thank you. The next question will begin with Candidate Drummel. And the question is, what are the educational strengths and weaknesses in Batavia School District?
I would say number one, the educational strength that we have is our staff. We have an amazing staff in this district, and it was actually my interactions and love of staff that led me to run for the school board the first time. You will not find a group of people who care for students more. I think the second educational strength that we have is these relationships with families. Batavia is a community beyond measure in terms of supporting our community, our students, loving our town. And I'm sorry, was it just strength that we were looking at?
A weakness too.
I thought so. I would say that, again, I have a huge concern that we are not focused on learning. We are the things that I say are foundational need to be things that we are folding in and doing regularly, but they cannot be our entire focus, because what you focus on is what happens. And we are not focusing on learning. We are focusing on a lot of other things, and those need to be foundational, not our focus.
Candidate Fender. What are the educational strengths and weaknesses in Batavia School District?
So I'm going to answer this as, a parent who has 3 kids in the district. The strengths are definitely the staff, and especially some outstanding teachers that I've come in contact with for all my kids. As for the weaknesses, again, it's the academics. We need to get back on the ball. We need to get these kids to a level where they can start thinking on their own, and to do that, they need all the basics. And with that, honestly, one of the weaknesses this is a personal thing, I don't get a lot. I've always been a parent. I'm not a helicopter parent, but I do like to know what my kid is working on, and I don't get a lot of work or results back. I miss paper. I miss seeing what went wrong, and how, you're at home, how can we fix this? So the academic communication from the teachers, because of the electronic age now, to me, that's a weakness, because I can't be there for my kid.
Candidate Gonzalez-Thomas.
I think the strengths, as everyone else has said, is the staff. I think we have excellent teachers. And also, even though it's not really part of the education, I think this is a great community. And I think the community rallies around the students when they need it. As far as weakness, I think there's a lack of communication from central office to the community, to parents, to staff. I also think there's a lack of curriculum. I know we have standards, and they say that we're teaching the standards. However, the standards are not curriculum. I also feel that there is a lack of DEI, whether that be safe spaces, people not feeling inclusive, and I just think we just need to be better at promoting that.
Candidate Raymond.
Yeah, the number one strength in any school district is usually the parents, and Batavia has great parents. Most of us moved here because we do care about the schools, we care about the community, and most parents are involved, and that is the number one strength. We do have a lot of great teachers too. I know the easy answer is to always say that all the staff is all great. There's some teachers that aren't great, but most of them are great, and those are the ones that we need to support, and we're fortunate to have the many great teachers that we do have. As far as the weaknesses go, is that, again, when 60% of the students are not passing the basic standards, that is a weakness that we have to have that focus on learning. And then the other thing is accountability to voters. And we saw what the bond got denied, and we're just rerunning it as the same thing. We didn't tell the taxpayers that your taxes would go down 10% if you voted no. We only said they wouldn't go up if you voted yes. That transparency is what this community deserves. And this school board has not presented that to the people of Batavia.
Thank you. Candidate Sliger.
Definitely, strengths are our amazing staff members. And we have an amazing community who truly, a lot of the time, is just all in, willing to do whatever is needed to help our children, help our schools, help our staff, support in every way. Those are huge strengths. And I think as far as weaknesses go, I think to get to the results that we're all hoping for, we need to keep in mind that we need to engage with our community to find out why, what is the data, use the data to find out why we're lacking where we're lacking. Do we need to get resources out and provide better access to them? What do we need to do? And I think that's where DEI comes into play, is really utilizing those tools to understand where our gaps are and how we can bridge those gaps to bring our results to where we want to be.
And Candidate Arulando.
I'll agree with a lot of the strengths there. And I'll maybe throw it in a different angle, which is, I think a strength is, I think the intention of our community, of our school district is they are really trying to strive to do the best by the children, and they have good intentions. And I think that's really a strength of this community, this school board, this school district. And then as far as weaknesses, I tend to agree. We need to get better at some of our academic standards and goals, and try and improve. But we always should do that. You know, as if we get to a certain level, we should set another higher level and get to that as well.
Candidate Fender, this question will begin with you. How will you support library programs in the Batavia schools?
I can donate all the books I have at home. I love libraries. So how would I support it? I would say, you know, whatever information is out there, I don't, you know, libraries should have all the information that somebody needs to go look for. Fortunately, they need to also have, you know, all the electronic stuff and things like that. So I'm not really sure how to answer this question, but I totally support the libraries. How I would do it is, it would depend on what they needed.
Candidate Gonzalez-Thomas.
I'm going to take this question as supporting the Batavia Public Library. I know it doesn't.
The library and publics in the Batavia schools.
Oh, okay. Thank you. I would just say, I know that in the schools, I know they have, at least in the middle school and the high schools, they go to the library frequently to do their research on papers and so forth. And I know that they sometimes hold classrooms in the library to make sure they have the ease of access. So I think sometimes I think they need to get away from the electronics, and they actually need to focus on the books and actually getting the information from the books, because we all know that sometimes the internet is not always truthful. So I think books, not that they can't be, but for the most part, they are. So,
Candidate Raymond.
I think the biggest issue we have with the library at the schools is we don't have enough customers. We don't have enough kids that want to go read books. Without ingraining in them the enjoyment of reading. My daughter that's here tonight, she'd never read a book probably until 2 years ago or 3 years ago, and now she's reading like crazy. And part of it is getting that excitement and the joy of reading. And a lot of us probably enjoyed reading at a different stage in our life, and when it first hits you, then you love it. So we've got to get the kids to be excited about reading, and then we can worry about what's in there's plenty of stuff for them to get right now in the library. It's just a matter of getting them in there and wanting to get it.
Candidate Sliger.
Please repeat the question.
Sure. How will you support library programs in all Batavia schools?
I mean, I definitely would need to know what the needs are of each library. I'm not sure how equitable library programs are from school to school. I only have experience with one of our schools, HG Storm. I know a lot of our library is funded by the PTO. And we have some awesome programs that really do excite kids. The Blue STEM reading contest. We do Battle of the Books. So I think I would really try to encourage, if there's not already, we have BIC for, PTOs and other boosters. I don't know if there's already where the librarians sit down and roundtable things and we're involved in that. If not, I would love to see that, just to make sure that we're sharing these awesome ideas and really encouraging the love and passion for books. And if they need extra funding, it is imperative that we find a way to do that within the budget.
Candidate Arulando?
Yes. Yes, we support this libraries. We want them to be the best that they can be within all our schools. And yeah, we'd have to assess gaps where they are and what we can do about it. But actually, I like Chris's answer. I think the bigger issue may be just encouraging the use of our libraries, what we have, and getting students in there.
Candidate Dremel.
Actually, I'm going to contradict that. We have amazing library programs, and I think that staff members would agree and students would agree. We have great programs. Students are excited to be in the LRC. We have passionate readers. The problem that we're having, and I believe that may have actually spurred this question, is we have staffing issues. And so being able to offer all of those opportunities are a constant juggle, and we recognize that. And we aren't going to single-handedly, any one of us as candidates, solve that staffing issue. It is a constant focus of trying to balance the needs of students, the needs of special programs, and it's an art, it's not a science, and we'll keep fighting the good fight. So we'll support it by doing everything we can to continue those great programs and continue the excitement that kids have to be in our libraries.
Thank you. We'll begin the next question with candidate Gonzalez Thomas. Do you think that Batavia Public Schools should offer an all-day kindergarten?
I think they do offer an all-day kindergarten. It's on a lottery system. So, they do. So I don't know.
We have all-day kindergarten.
Yeah, we have. I think there's confusion. I'm sorry. Oh, I'm so sorry.
You know what? Let's ask another question, and it'll be our last question, okay? Given the declining enrollment projections for the school district, should the school board continue to maintain and operate 6 elementary school buildings in Batavia? If not, what criteria should the school board use to determine which elementary school buildings should be closed? I'll read it one more time for all of you. Given the declining enrollment projections for the school district, should the school board continue to maintain and operate 6 elementary school districts in Batavia? If not, what criteria should the school board use to determine which elementary school buildings will be closed? And should you need an additional 30 seconds to answer this question, I'm happy to give it to you.
Batavia's goal for K through 2 is 22 students per teacher. 3rd through 5th is 26. And when the report card comes out, all the certified staff is included in that ratio. So that means that your admin, your interventionalist, your enrichment coaches, and your specialized teachers, meaning band, art, gym teachers, and so forth. So when you're looking for the ratio, you should really only look at the classroom teacher and those children. They shouldn't have, it's a little misleading. So in order, if you want to close schools, you really have to look, it has to be a huge drop in enrollment. Batavia also has to meet the state of Illinois mandate that no more than 30% of students with individualized education plan can be in a class. And I think that the individualized education plans have gone up in Batavia. So therefore, you have to really, so you only can have 30%. So you have to look at the whole classroom and ensure that that 30% is not going over. And again, you maybe have to take out the other certified staff.
Candidate Raymond.
Yeah. So with the declining numbers, it is something that needs to be looked at. It certainly should not be something that's off the table. There is a protectionist attitude that when they decided to go for the $140 million bond of taxpayer money, that one of the key reasons is that people did not want to break up their elementary school area. And where I can understand why somebody wouldn't want to do that, the community pays for all that, so that would not happen. As one of the key things is this was brought up in the analysis that was done on whether or not what we should do as a community. So it does have to be looked at. I would have to see the exact numbers of the trajectory, but at some point, it should not be, I want my kids to go to whatever elementary school, so you can't take this one down. It's too expensive to keep schools operating. I know that Geneva has this issue with Fabian Elementary School, that they built it and it was half full. We don't need schools that are half or 3/4 full if it's going to be taxpayers paying an extra $30 million to ensure that to have that happen. So I think it needs to be looked at and it needs to be taken into consideration, and it is an option. Don't know if it's the right option, but it is an option.
Thank you. Candidate Sliger.
I think from the most recent data that I've seen presented, the decline in enrollment was more at the high school level than at the middle school and elementary levels. I think the decline numbers, the climate numbers, were not significant enough to make that change, but I don't know. I mean, those are projections. So definitely, if there was a significant decline and we are approaching that, it's a discussion that needs to be had. I think the way things are set up now, I don't see how we could combine schools. Again, I think it's going to depend on that, but the last set of data numbers that I saw, it was more at the high school level than the elementary.
Candidate Ariolando.
Yeah, I'm in favor of keeping all 6 schools, elementary schools. I think declining enrollment. There's a lot of factors that go into that projection. The next 5 years, I think they were indicating that we would have that enrollment decline, and as Danielle said, at the high school level is what I was told, that most of that would occur. And it had stabilized at the elementary school level. So I don't think we should be a little bit short-sighted in that. A lot of factors that go into that. I think the advantage of the 6 schools, once again, is the community involvement. And we don't want to get into a situation that Raquel just pointed out where we fall below our or go above our effective ratio of students to teachers in the classroom. So, in favor of 6 schools.
Candidate Dremel.
Batavia really values their neighborhood schools. That came through loud and clear in the 3-year of community engagement project that we did. Furthermore, for those of you who are school board meeting junkies, those declining enrollment numbers have been talked about a number of times repeatedly. And yes, the data is saying that we have actually, we believe, bottomed out at our declining enrollment. And now we are actually steady, if not having some increasing enrollment at our elementary schools, which then will build back up through our high school. That said, our schools were actually built for the numbers that we are now approaching in our elementary schools. And so it's sort of equalizing that they are being utilized appropriately and proportionally.
Candidate Fender.
Okay, can you repeat the question?
Sure. Given the declining enrollment projections for the school district, should the school board continue to maintain and operate 6 elementary buildings in Batavia? If not, what criteria should the school board use to determine which elementary school buildings will be closed?
Gotten back to my turn, I've learned a little bit more. So if there is no declining numbers, or there's not projected to be, then we should keep it how it is. And, especially, I've been to some of those school board meetings, and yes, people love their neighborhood schools, as I did. However, if it is going to decline to the point where we absolutely don't need a school, then, I think we need to be fiscally responsible and see how much that is going to cost us. The only problem with that is okay, what if the enrollment changes in 5 more years and then we need that school? So, it all depends on what the trends would be, and, it's really difficult to answer on that without.
Well, candidates, sadly, our time is up, and that was your last question. So I would encourage the attendees, if we were unable to ask your question, that you continue to reach out to the candidates to get the answers that you would like to hear. So we'll begin our closing statements with candidate Raymond.
Oh, thank you again for hosting this here tonight, and I'm very thankful that there's a pretty big crowd here today. So I believe there's some differences that we see in the candidates. Some here that want things to continue kind of the way they are, and others that sit there like me and, again, believe that 60% of students not hitting it, that is the number one thing that needs to be addressed. And paying $900 more per year per student than the districts near us is not acceptable for the results that we're getting. If we're going to pay more, we should get more, and that the district needs to be transparent. The good news, though, is this can be fixed. All these things can be fixed. And let's develop a vision. Let's work together, develop a vision. And when I talk to parents in this district, whether they're left, center, or right politically, I hear constantly they want transparency, fiscal responsibility, and academic excellence. I have the energy and ability to make that happen. And on April 4th, I hope you guys vote for Chris Raymond. Thank you.
Candidate Sliger.
Thank you again to the League of Women Voters and to everyone in attendance and watching from home. I believe investing in our children's education is the best investment our community can make. If elected to school board, I pledge to continue my work to promote communication, support, transparency, financial responsibility, and accountability to bring the best educational experience to all of our students. I am committed to ensuring our district remains strong and desirable while making necessary changes so that every student and staff member can enjoy and benefit from all that Batavia has to offer. My name is Danielle Sliger, and I would love to be your school board representative. Thank you.
Candidate Arjulandu, you have 1 minute for your closing statement.
Yes, thank you everyone for coming. Thank you to the League of Women Voters for hosting us this evening. Once again, I'm really in this as what I believe to be my duty as a community member. And I believe I have skills through my upbringing and professional experience that can be of value to the board. So I want to be able to share that and help Batavia become not just a competitive school district, but recognized as one of the best school districts in the state.
Candidate Dremel, your closing statement.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to answer questions and share our thoughts so that the voters can get an idea of who each of us are. What I bring to the table is a wealth of experiences and a passion for education that has really been the driving force of the last 25 years of my life. There is nothing more important than our children. They are our future, and the work that we do as school board members is the most important and the most rewarding work I have ever done, and I'm asking for an opportunity to continue that work. So thank you.
Candidate Fender.
Again, I want to thank you for this opportunity to be here. I'm not sure if my responses demonstrated how truly invested I am in the education and well-being of all of the students in our district. You know, I want to be the person who works to try to solve the issues and not just be the person who complains about things and blames other people. I truly believe it's the school board's responsibility to ensure that all students are provided every opportunity to achieve to their highest potential, while also having a responsibility to the community that their hard-earned money is being spent responsibly. So I will work hard. I will put in the time that is needed to make this my mission. So remember Gabriel Fender when you vote on April 4th.
And last but not least, Candidate Gonzalez-Thomas.
Just thanks to the League of Women Voters, all who are in attendance, whether you're in person or via the internet. Thank you for all the questions. As a school board member, I will not only listen to all the concerns of the students, teachers, staff, and community, but I will hear you and I will see you. Okay? I will do my best to have an open and honest dialogue with everyone, and I will put the needs of the student first. So come April 4th, vote for Raquel Gonzalez-Thomas.
Thank you. Please join me in thanking the candidates for being with us this evening. I can't say this enough, in that our democracy thrives when all of us are engaged. Attending or watching a candidate forum is an excellent way to be empowered to join discussions on local issues and make your voice heard on Election Day. We hope that each and every one of you will inspire your families, friends, and neighbors to do the same. Information on how and when to vote can be found on IllinoisVoterGuide.com, your Central Kane County League of Women Voters website, or your local county election commission website. Thank you so much.